Most people spend their whole lives chasing results in the slow lane, using willpower, routines, and hustle, trying to force change through effort. But what if that was never the true way to bring about results? What if the reality you're chasing already exists, and the real game is actually about tuning into it, collapsing time, bending probabilities, and shifting your position in the quantum field? What if you could tap into what's known as quantum manifesting? This isn't just theory. It's something that's been known for thousands and thousands of years, hidden in ancient texts, symbolism, and teachings passed through ancient mystery schools and elite circles. They understood that reality doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who and what you are. Now, modern quantum physics has finally showed us that many of these ideas are very true through actual data. Experiments are confirming and have confirmed what mystics and initiates have always whispered, that at the subatomic level, everything is energy, and consciousness is what shapes it. But here's the part that very few people ever learn, and that is there is a precise formula used by those in the know that allows you to collapse the wave of potential into actual, tangible outcomes and results. This is not by effort, this is not by force, but by becoming a match to what you seek in the field of infinite possibility. The so-called elites have used it to create entire realities. While most of the world is busy chasing goals, they're tapping into timelines where the goal is already real. Now today, I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you how this actually works, so that you can start making quantum leaps in your own life, so that you can have all these results fly into your life and almost wonder to yourself, where did that come from? It's time to stop playing by the old rules of time and effort. So in this video, I'll cover in great detail how you can do this in a practical way that actually produces results in your life. I'll also give you the formula that has been used in elite circles for generations to help them achieve quantum manifestations. Now, I highly recommend paying attention here because this is going to be jam-packed with so much value that you will struggle to find on any other YouTube video or in most other places. But you'll only ever benefit from it by actually paying attention, taking notes, and watching it in its entirety. Because if you don't, you'll miss pieces of the formula, which will lead to a completely different result, probably one that you don't want. So that being said, let's jump into how you can start quantum manifesting for yourself. So let's first define a little bit more of what quantum leap is before we go over how you can start making these, why these occur, and again, the practical way in which you can utilize them. So in my eyes, a quantum leap is when you make a massive progressive leap forward in such a way that you almost could never have thought of it yourself. So it's not something that comes from the mind or the linear way of thinking. It's something that happened in a non-linear, synchronistic way to such a point that it actually probably caught you off guard. It's something that propelled you way forward, creating results in a shorter amount of time than you may have even believed possible before, because again, what you believed possible was through the mind, which thinks in a linear way. Now, in order for quantum leaps to start taking place in your life, you have to understand certain principles and certain rules to the game, so to speak, of reality that allows quantum leaps to take place. And this will allow you to understand what the process is and what's going on when you are aiming to take one of these. Ultimately, following these principles creates or primes the environment for them to actually happen, for you to actually take quantum leaps. And if you keep priming the environment for quantum leaps to occur, they are going to keep presenting themselves to you. Now, the first thing to understand is a crucial thing about reality, and I mention it all of the time, and we'll go in a little more depth as well, but it's that the outer world follows the inner world. And I will explain exactly what that means. So the outer world you already are aware of, it's your physical world. That much is, right? You understand that you're in a physical world, that you have some interaction on this physical world, that at least a part of you is physical. For a lot of people, they believe all of themselves is physical, that they're mainly physical. However, there is also what's called an inner world, and this is made up of different elements. And actually, the funny thing is that the inner world is way more prevalent, or much more, than the outer world. In fact, the inner world accounts for about 99.9+% of reality, because reality is mainly energy and consciousness and non-physical, where the physical world accounts for about 0.000001% of reality. because the physical is born out of the non-physical. It is a tiny subset of a much larger superset. Now, this is important to understand because if you are just trying to do things in the physical, all you're doing is aiming at that very tiny percentage of what makes up reality, and you're leaving that 99.9+% of what reality actually is on the table unutilized or undirected, right? But if you start directing that, if you start learning about how to use the inner world, which connects to this 99.9+% of what makes up reality, this is when quantum leaps can start occurring, because you can start bringing things from that 99.9+% from this place of consciousness, energy, the mental realm, the non-physical, into that very small percentage known as the physical. This is kind of, in a nutshell, how a quantum leap will occur. You will be bringing things from that much larger superset into the physical and them appearing in ways that almost don't even make sense because your linear analytical mind can only really think from that tiny percentage. So understand, when we're talking about quantum, we're using that to represent the inner world. Now, here's the way I want you to think about it. I've gone over this many times before, but it's worth repeating because, again, the more you hear it, the more you're going to be able to operate from it. Again, then you'll actually have it at your fingertips rather than something you're forgetting all the time. And again, I want you to imagine that you are a three-part being, or kind of see it in this way. You are physical. Again, we're not denying that. We're not denying that there is a physical part to you, but what we're saying is it's a much lesser part of you, or tinier percentage part of you, than you've been led to believe. That 0.0000 many ones percent of reality. But however, there's that physical part of you, but two other parts that we use in this example. There is the mental part of you, right, which is a non-physical aspect. Thoughts are not physical things, but they exist, right? You have thoughts, you draw in thoughts, you send out thoughts, you have imagery and visualizations and all of these different things. So there's that part of you as well, the mental part of yourself. Then there is the spirit part of yourself as well. And spirit, you can think of like the energetic, kind of more pure energy. You can think of it as emotion, energy in motion. You can experience these different energies, right? It's also your connection to what you are, or maybe this higher source, we could call it. The all infinite intelligence is kind of like your channel or your gateway to connecting to that higher part of yourself. Now, these two inner planes of your existence are what create the results that are going to happen in the physical. Again, if we learn to do certain things in that quantum realm, and we line certain things up in that quantum realm, we create an environment from that place that is primed. You're going to see certain manifestations come from there into your physical life through opportunities, different people, and so on. In fact, this is how cause and effect works at a higher level. Everyone knows about cause and effect on the physical plane, right? So we know that if we enact certain causes, we do certain things, there's going to be an effect. You know, if I punch a wall, then that's the cause, you know, that there's going to be a certain effect that happens from that, right? We understand that, right? There's certain effects in the physical plane. But in other planes of existence, cause and effect is still taking place. And the way it works at a higher level is the causes you activate in the mental and spiritual part of yourself create the effects in your physical. And so what you're doing on those two planes of your existence in the inner, we could say again, quantum realm, part of yourself, the non-physical, are going to create the effects you experience in your physical. Again, like I said, the outer world, which is the physical, follows the lead of the inner world. What you're doing in the inner world will start to be reflected in your outer world. So in order to set yourself up for a quantum leap or quantum manifestation, you have to cultivate your inner world to allow for that to happen. Now, we're going to even cover later how long you need to cultivate the inner world for really dramatic effects to start taking place in your life. So you'll get a time frame for if you do certain things right, when the quantum manifestation or leap will take place. Now, again, this will vary depending on your ability to manifest, how much work you've done, how much you're focused, and we'll cover again how to expedite that and how to speed that up. But there is an actual time frame that you can look at and is quite accurate when it comes to this, which we will cover later. So keep in mind, the outer world follows the inner. This is crucial to always remember because it's going to change your priorities. Again, most people are frustrated and battling the outer world to influence the outer world and getting very few results. They're hustling and grinding and maybe getting some rewards for that, but it's incredibly inefficient and leads to all of these problems, whether in their health, their relationships, relationships, or they're kind of setting themselves up for a big collapse. And it just isn't necessary if you follow the more quantum model. Trying to influence the external world through the external world is like taking something that's already here and trying to mold it into something else. So if I take this water bottle, for example, and I want it to be something else, rather than going through the quantum way or whatever else, it's like I'm trying to take this and I want to make it into a cup. Right? I want to make it into a remote control, and I'm trying to bend it to my will, and I'm trying to reconstruct it or whatever else, but this is already in the physical realm that's come out of the non-physical realm. So why wouldn't I just learn the process of how do non-physical things come into the physical? How do I attract those things in order to receive more of what it is I'm looking to receive, rather than trying to change what's already here? However, this is how most people approach trying to change things in their life, just being physical, acting upon physical, rather than cultivating the non-physical and setting up the environment for new things to come into your physical world. Outer following inner. In fact, what I'll give you is what's called the Lego brick analogy. And I want you to imagine that there is a Lego factory, and everything in your life is a Lego brick. So everything that's physical is represented by Lego bricks, right? And again, how most people are trying to change their life is they're looking at the Lego bricks in their life and they don't like them. They're complaining about them. So your finances are Lego bricks, your relationships or whatever else. And so they're trying to change the results in their life by complaining or trying to manipulate and mold the Lego bricks that are already here. But they're already here. They're already an energetic history. They're already the result of what you've been doing in the inner world so far. And so instead of trying to forcibly change the bricks already in your life, what if you could go into the Lego factory and request new bricks? What if you were able to go through the back door, talk to the workers and be like, could you create this mold of Lego brick? Could you create, for example, this in my financial life? Could you create this kind of relationship, etc., etc.? And then they'll get to work in actually creating those things for you. Now, again, you have to create the environment for these things to come in. You can give the request, but then if you don't align to the request, if you do not become the kind of person who is in the kind of environment internally that can receive that, you won't. But you can make requests to the Lego brick, which is like represented by the universe, by God, by source, whatever you want to call it. It's the non-physical aspect. You can go in and make requests, go into the inner world and start cultivating that in order for new Lego bricks to start coming out, rather than complaining about what's already here. When you complain about what's already here, you just end up creating more of the same because your focus is on these things and you don't get what you want. Again, you get who you are. And who you are a lot of times is your beliefs, what you're focusing on, your energy. And so if your energy is always on this thing and you're giving your attention to it all the time, you're just giving that thing more energy. You're just giving more orders into the Lego factory unwittingly to have more of that thing. And that's how we start actually giving orders into the Lego brick factory. We start giving our attention to certain things. Meditation and visualization are very powerful for that reason. For example, in a visualization, what are you doing? You're visualizing what you want. You're giving an order to the Lego brick factory. You're feeling good about it, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and that is going in, again, in this analogy to that Lego factory going, oh, this is what they want, so let's start creating a mold for that to happen. Again, it takes some time for it to come into the physical, because the physical is a denser rate of vibration, but if you stick with it, it will start to show up in your life. And again, later we'll go over the time frame in which you can start to expect these things to come in. So if you start making an order into this factory as we're going over and adhere to the rest of what we go over in this video, things will, quote unquote, start to pop out of the factory in ways you don't expect, bringing you exactly what you need to make your dreams a reality. Again, like I've said, there have been certain people in certain circles that have known this for generations. They absolutely understand that it's not about hustling and grinding. They understand about the mental and spirit side. There's a reason books like Think and Grow Rich are called Think and Grow Rich, not hustle and grow rich, not work 18 hours a day and grow rich. They were tapped into these ideas and how manifestation actually works, how to bring the non-physical into the physical based on how you mold it. So ultimately, you will always struggle to influence your life if you are only operating from the outer and not taking care of the inner. You want to think of your inner world like a garden, and that this garden will be reflected into your outer world. So if you have a neglected garden filled with weeds, dry ground that's unkempt and uncared for, this will be reflected in your physical life. But if you cultivate it, if you're intentional with this garden, you plant the seeds you actually want rather than focusing on the things you don't want, which then plants more weed seeds. And watch how the outer world begins to change as you start doing this. Now, to cultivate this inner garden, you have to think more intentionally and also feel more intentionally. This, again, is why practices like visualization and meditation are so effective when done consistently. They're very effective because they help you essentially just tap into that inner world place and cultivate the garden very quickly, whether it's removing the weeds that are already there or starting to plant the seeds you actually want in the garden. Now, what we are going to do next is go over an actual manifestation formula that has been utilized by some of the most successful people throughout history. So really pay attention here and apply what we cover, because alongside the understanding of how things work that you just learned, this is what's going to create the quantum manifestations in your life more frequently. Understand, when it comes to the creation process, there is a part that's the universe's job. Again, there's the Lego factory and there are these processes that are happening, but there is 100% a part that is your job. And you need to know what your side of the process is, or you're not going to manifest. You have to take responsibility for your job and your side of the process. The universe will not just deliver things to you if these things are not being done. Again, if the environment hasn't been created, you're not going to get the thing. But by creating the environment through this formula that I'm going to give you in great depth, how to do this, exactly how to set it up for yourself, you will notice that more things start to come in. So understand, there is a part of your process. You can't just sit down and just expect things to come in and have them come in. You have to start matching those things, and this next thing we go over will show you exactly how to do that. So what I'm going to do is play some clips from a video I made a very long time ago where I went into so much detail when it comes to this formula. So you're going to get basically the whole formula here that you can use, that again, you might think is simple, but when you have all of these pieces in place, especially combined with the rest of what we're going over in this video, you will notice changes. This is a formula that we give clients and we help them stick to. We hold them accountable to. We bring them back to time and time again because it just works. And lo and behold, these quantum leaps start occurring in their life because they do this. So I'm going to roll that now, and then I'll see you afterwards for the rest of the things we need to cover to make this work even more effectively. When it comes to manifestation, it is not about all these new ideas and this sounds cool and this philosophy sounds right. It's what is actually going to produce results for you, and that's what I'm going to give you. You have to know clearly what it is that your dream is. And what I mean by this, because there's a lot of people that say, hey, you want your dream life, you want this, you want that, you need to have a dream, etc., etc. But ultimately, what you need to do is actually write out what is your dream scenario, your dream life, and it has to be something that you have no idea how to accomplish. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake. They don't do this part, and so they think it's something that they can do, or they think it's something small, or they think it's something that someone else wants them to do, or that would be a cool dream. You need to tune in and actually write out in a journal where you can see it every single day with passion, with heart, what it is you actually want. And you have to get this right, because if it's not something you actually want deep inside of you, in your heart, this isn't going to work, because it's the excitement of this dream that is going to help us moving forward as we complete the rest of this puzzle. And you can simply prompt yourself by asking, what is it I truly want? And here's another thing, do not feel guilty or shame for whatever it is that you want. What is your dream? Is your dream to have your own business and be able to travel the world, and that just fills you up with so much excitement? Is your dream to have a significant partner that's growth-oriented, growth-centric, and you two love each other and complement each other, and to start a beautiful family with them? Is your dream to be able to be in the best shape of your life, to be in the 1% of the 1% of people who are healthy, to maybe even compete in certain athletic events or whatever else it is? It doesn't matter what the dream is, so long as you identify what it is, you write it down, and you genuinely feel excitement when you think about it and when you look at it written down. Now again, I want to reiterate the point really quick before we move on to the next part, that this has to be something that you have no clue how to achieve. Don't worry about that. In the next few puzzle pieces, we'll be getting more clear on that for sure. But it needs to be something you have no clue how to achieve. It's something that you're going to work with the universe, with God, with source, whatever you want to call it, in order to manifest. But it has to be something big. It has to be something exciting. Go into the dream world and really conjure up, what is it that I actually want? What is the ideal scene? What is like the scene? Like, think of it like a movie scene that you want to see yourself in many, many years from now. And you're going to write that out in as much detail from the heart as you can. The first piece of the puzzle I gave you was having a dream, that this is so crucial, and it's crucial for a reason. It is that dream that is going to help determine the next couple of pieces. If we don't have that dream in place, we have no idea where we're going, we have no direction, we have nothing we're excited about, and we're just kind of aimlessly moving around in life, not knowing where we want to go, thinking that something or someone's going to come in and give us direction, and here is the answer to that. There's no one coming to give you direction, or at least not in the way you want to go. There are plenty of people that will try and hook you to helping them in their agenda, but I'm assuming that's not what you want. One way to think about it, and I heard this from Earl Nightingale, who came up with the greatest secret or the strangest secret in the world. He said, it's kind of like when you don't have a dream, you don't have a direction. It's kind of like having a ship without a crew or captain and just pushing it out to sea. Now, is that ship going to get to where they want it to go? Absolutely not. It'll probably just end up finding a storm or a deserted island, and it will never get to where you want it to go. But when you put a crew and a captain on it and you set out to go to a specific destination, your chances of getting to that destination go up markedly. In fact, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to get to that destination. And so that's what we're doing in the last video and also in this, because in this video, we're going to be going over what's called a definite chief aim. Now, this definite chief aim should be something that you know is going to move you closer to your dream, but this is where we introduce some more practicality, so you're actually doing things here down on earth that move you closer to the dream, and you're not always in the dream land. Now, what's going to happen is when you're in the dreamland, it's going to start giving you ideas on what the definite chief aim should be. And I'm going to go over exactly how you can fashion this definite chief aim so that it's right and it actually moves you closer to your dream and you actually start manifesting. Now, just to give you some context, the person who coined this term, a DCA, was Napoleon Hill, who said this technique, when he used it, and he used it consistently, it scared him how quickly it began to work. And that's how powerful this can be. Now, a DCA means a definite chief aim. It doesn't mean you have 3 DCAs, it doesn't mean you have 10. And a lot of people, even if they do have their dream figured out, this is the next mistake they make because they don't have this puzzle piece. They try and do 10 different things at once. I want this, I want that, I'm going to aim for this. And that's like a ship trying to end up in 4 or 5 different destinations with one ship. Guess what? Not going to happen. Now, you could go to one and then the next and then the next. A DCA, after you accomplish one, you just create another, whatever the best next DCA would be to achieve your dream or get closer to your dream. But you have to have one DCA at a time. Now, why is it you want one DCA? Because when you focus your energy, which is massive when it comes to manifesting, on a singular aim, it's like a laser beam. When you focus your energy on multiple different things, it's like a light bulb. So yes, the light bulb illuminates the room, but it doesn't give it enough power to the thing you actually want. A laser beam isn't going to illuminate the whole room. Some things will be dark. You won't be able to see everything. But why do you care? If those things aren't that interesting to you, if those things you're not even really are the things you want. But if you focus on like a laser beam on the thing that you actually want, on the thing that moves you closer to your dream, you're going to get it that much more quickly. In fact, I'll give you another analogy. Let's say you have a watering can, and every single day you only have enough water to water one seed, to nurture one seed. Well, if you plant 20 seeds and you try and water all of those plants with enough water to water one, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to grow, or maybe you'll get little manifestations here and there that aren't that significant, don't change your life, and that's why that happens. The focus is spread thin. But if you give that water every day to a single seed, to a single one you're trying to grow, eventually and very quickly, it will grow and start to bear the fruit that you want. And so what you're going to do in this video, for this video, the exercise is look at your dream and then ask yourself, what is something that if I were to achieve in the next 6 to 12 months, would move me closer to my dream. That is your definite chief aim. Now, here is a key thing you need to keep in mind. You always choose something you know that you can achieve. Again, the dream is the la-la land stuff. This is the thing that you have no clue how you're going to get there, even though we're kind of mapping it out here. You have no idea how that's going to come in. But your DCA needs to be something that you know you can do. Why is this? I know you've probably heard, oh, when you have a goal, it needs to be something you have no idea how to accomplish, because if you shoot for the stars, you'll land on the moon. If you fall short, it's fine. And that's not good advice, and I'll tell you why. The only time that's good advice is if your confidence and belief is sky high, and for most of you, 99.9% of people, it's not. When you have a big DCA that you're not sure you can hit, you're going to introduce doubt into the process. And I will tell you, the number one killer of manifestations is doubt. And so you choose a DCA you know that you can hit in 6 to 12 months, but is also exciting. And that's the magic. So choose something your head can buy into that won't throw any doubt in there, because that will kill it dead. But also in your heart's exciting, like, hey, actually, yeah, that would be really cool. That's exciting because that moves me closer to my dream. Yeah, if I sat here with this amount, let's say it's a financial amount, that would be really good. That would be very exciting. I could do this, I could do X, Y, and Z. If I built my business to that level, at X, Y, and Z, whatever else it is, right? And so it has to be something that you're excited about. It has to be a single thing. It has to be able to be accomplished in 6 to 12 months, and even better if you can achieve it before that time. Because guess what happens when you achieve it before that time, or when you achieve this DCA? You just make another one. And guess what happens when you have a win under your belt? Your believability and confidence increases, which means then your next DCA will be even larger, and then your confidence when you hit that one will increase, and so on and so forth. And when you have a bunch of wins under your belt, when you have a bunch of manifestations under your belt because you just focused long enough, your confidence is going to go sky high, and your doubt is going to go, to rock bottom. And that's what we want to do. We want to build a string of wins, momentum here, that is going to allow you to continually manifest bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you try and go and I'm going to achieve this dream, I have no clue, and that's just what I'm going to focus on, I'm not going to focus on a DCA or these other parts of the puzzle, you're just going to wake up a week later and start getting anxious. You're going to wake up and go, oh, God, why isn't my dream moving forward? You're going to wake up and throw in doubt. You're going to wake up and wonder how it's going to happen. And when you wonder how it's going to happen, guess what that really is? That's doubt. Because you don't trust the universe. You don't trust source. You don't trust these unseen forces to do its job, because you're asking how, which means you have doubt. The how is none of your business. So create a DCA that is both exciting, but you know you can do. As long as you do everything right, as long as you're consistent, you know you can do. And remember, we're doing this because it will focus it like a laser beam. But when you have some wins under your belt, when you have momentum, when you do this, the universe starts helping you to accomplish these things. Magic is going to happen. And now we're going over what's called an objective. We're breaking this down even more. And this is very simple. The dream is created, and that's something you have no idea how to accomplish. And then the DCA is something you know that you can, to build up your habits, to build up your wins, to build up your momentum. That is going to move you closer to your dream. However, 6 to 12 months is something that is kind of far away. And so we want to focus even more closer to today. And so we're going to be going over basically how you can have an objective that helps you move closer to your DCA. So in the same way with your DCA, your objective should be something you absolutely know you can hit, so long as you do everything consistently. Again, if you go out and you just stop doing all of this, you're not going to hit it. But it's something you know if you show up every day and you take the right action steps, you're absolutely going to hit this objective. And so your objective is something that's going to move you much closer to your DCA. And it's something that you know you can hit within 1 to 3 months. Again, the idea here is we want to choose something that's exciting, but also your mind can buy into. If there's any doubt at all, you should not select that thing. It has to be something you're confident, as long as I show up every day and take the actions, I'll absolutely hit this objective. But it's also something exciting to where you're like, that's exciting because it gets me closer to my DCA, which gets me closer to my dream, etc., etc. So those two things in place. Basically the heart and mind buying in, which is having the excitement, but also having the believability. Because, and again, nothing will kill manifestations and growth and progress like doubt. There's no getting around it. If you have a bunch of doubt towards something, it's not about trying to remove doubt from that thing. You remove doubt by having some wins. So go and make it a little smaller, still make it exciting, but something you know that you can accomplish in 1 to 3 months. And again, ideally, and what's going to happen is you do take the daily action steps, you may find that you accomplish this before 1 to 3 months, which is going to raise your confidence even more. And then you create a new objective. So ultimately, create this objective to be something that moves you much closer to your DCA, is a big step towards your DCA being accomplished. When you accomplish this objective, it's simple. You make another objective. You look at everything again, you look at your dream and your DCA and go, what's the best next objective? And your confidence is going to be improved by that point as well, so you might even be able to go bigger, but it's always making sure that believability is there. And now the second part of this is you have to ask yourself the question, what do I need to do tomorrow that's going to move me closer to achieving my objective? And so every single day, you're going to have action steps, and these action steps move you closer to your objective. You can ask yourself a very powerful question. I always ask this to myself every single day, and it's, what is the best next thing I can do that moves me closer to my objective? And you see, what's going to happen when you have all of these puzzle pieces in place is the universe is actually going to look at you, is going to see what you're doing and go, wow, Carla is actually serious about this. Mike is actually serious about this now. They are starting the manifestation process by writing these things down. You should be writing this in your journal. They're looking at it every single day. They're sending out that signal. Let's start giving them some instructions. Let's start giving them some guidance. And you're going to start noticing that you just seem to know what the action steps should be. Something pops in your head and like, oh, okay, that's an action step. That sounds something like something I can do towards this. Oh, and then this, and then this. And then you're going to prioritize these action steps. What is an A priority and what is a B? And you can go C, D, and all that, but just keep it simple, A and B, meaning what are the things that I should definitely do today? And what are the things that if I have time, I'll get to? Right? Every single night or every single morning, although starting at night is usually better because you might forget by morning. At night, it just kind of works better if you have it set up for the next day. You're going to write out, what are the action steps I need to take tomorrow in order to move closer to my objective? And then all you need to do when you wake up the next day is make sure you prioritize these action steps and then you actually follow through with them. This focuses you like a laser beam. You now suddenly know exactly what to do in order to get closer to that dream and to the point where that dream will manifest. And guess what? Each objective you complete is a manifestation, and you'll see what happens. There's going to be byproducts of you completing your objective. More than what your objective is will start to come in. Same with the DCA, but you have to trust this process. Now, there is one final piece you're going to need. And this is essentially pouring gasoline on the fire. When you understand this, things come flying in. This is the part of the process that once you have this foundation in place that we've just gone over, once you do this next thing, this is when the results become scary fast. This is when things start coming in, flying in ways you can't even see. The key after having all of that foundation in place is you need to feel good most of the time. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you are negative a lot of the time, if you are in lower levels of energy, if you're in things like grief and shame and guilt and fear and anger and pride and things of these nature, in apathy, in just whatever, this kind of emotion, what you're doing is really making yourself more dense, more particle than wave, as some people would say. And this releases or reduces power. This causes your engine to shut off. And so even though you know where you want to go, you have no power behind it, which is going to send out the signal for that to come back. Essentially, the more power you have, the more you move in that direction. The more power you have, the more magnetic you become for these things to also start meeting you kind of as you're driving towards them. They don't become this static thing that just stands still. Remember, what you want also wants you. But by wanting it, you also have to feel good. You have to feel good now. Because if you treat your manifestation as something like this, that I will feel good when I have something, you won't get it. And if you do, you'll be miserable. You have to feel good now. You have to be at that point where you're like, you know what? I want this to come in, but it's totally okay if it doesn't. It'll be this or something better. And if you don't have that attitude about it, you become like this needy person that has to have this come in or else, my life is ruined. It won't. Again, think of it from a romantic perspective. Have you ever had someone who's been like that? I really want you, I need you. Has that been attractive or repellent? Well, for most people who are in a good place mentally or a good place emotionally, that's usually very repellent. And it's the same for your manifestations. Imagine your manifestations are someone who absolutely is into you, but then if you become needy, they kind of start moving away. And so you need to do what's called lowering the importance. But when you feel good now, you start lowering this importance. Every single day, you should be reading out your dream with passion and excitement and really feeling the emotions as if it's already here. Read out your DCA with the same emotion and read out your objective and make sure you know what you have to do today on your action steps. But you need to feel it. If you feel it and it feels like something that isn't here and therefore I'm going to beat myself up over it, you push it away because it's not going to be something that comes in and fixes your life. It's something that comes in as a byproduct of feeling good. Now you started the engine and away you go. What I recommend you do is you write out a list of all the things you know allow you to feel good. And when I say feel good, I mean emotions like gratitude and joy, happiness and calm, things of that nature. What allows you to be calm? That's a great emotion, peace and calm. What allows you to feel excitement? What allows you to feel happiness? For example, do you have a pet that whenever you play with them, you're just giddy and you just love it, you're just all into it? That's an amazing thing to put on that list. Is it when you sing in the shower, you just feel so uplifted and you just feel so in the moment? That's something to have on the list. When you're out in nature, do you just feel so calm, like you just have no troubles, no worries? That's a great thing to have on the list. And then the trick is outside of your action steps, you want to be feeling good as much as you can. Now here's why. Because ultimately you are transmitting out however you're feeling. And for most people, they have what we can consider a negative ball of energy in their life because they're used to thinking negatively. You're feeding this ball, and for a lot of people, you have a really big ball. And that might sound, kind of disconcerting. But don't worry, we can fix this. Now, the bigger the ball, the more magnetic the ball. Think of like a planet. The bigger the planet, the more it kind of draws into its gravitational pull. Well, think of your energy ball as the same kind of thing. It's like this massive energy that is pulling based on how much power it has. This is why we focus on, like a laser beam, on the kind of key foundations I've given you, because we're going to switch this. Because if you start feeling good now, not only do you ignore this negative ball, which means you cut off the energy, you've cut off the engine for the negativity that was growing in your life. Once you do that and focus on feeling good now, you start building this new positive energetic ball in your life. The bigger that ball becomes, the more magnetic it becomes, which brings more positive thoughts into your life, which brings more positive things into your life, and that gets bigger and bigger, and it starts to attract even more of that. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger as a result and starts to attract more and more of that. And the negative ball starts to decrease because you're not looking at it as much, you're not being negative. And there's a magical thing that happens when the positive energy ball becomes larger than the negative energy ball. You start habitually becoming positive. You start being able to feel good now almost without reason. And once you hit that state and you do the rest of what we've gone over, your dreams are going to start coming in. They're going to start flying in because you now have this massive engine of positive energy that is propelling you towards your dream, your DCA, towards your objective. This is when your believability goes so far up that your objectives at that time, when you're at this point, will be so much bigger than the objectives you started out with when you started this whole process, because your believability has gone so far up. But those new big objectives you have at that time will be things you're like, oh yeah, of course I can accomplish that in 1 to 3 months, or my DCA in 6 to 12 months, because you've built so much more momentum. You've built that positive energy that's become so magnetic that brings bigger things in even more quickly. And so this is why we need to feel great now. Now keep in mind what we've covered so far and this formula when utilized and everything else we're going to go over. If you're doing all of this, what's going to happen is opportunities will present themselves. But remember, it's a part of your responsibility to then take the action. You could have all these opportunities come up, never take any, and then wonder why your life isn't changing. There is still the actionizing principle. You still need to take action. There are still things within the physical realm you need to do. But through this process, we're setting it up so the universe essentially is handing you things on a silver platter. You just need to reach out and take the action to actually grab the thing. So understand that, again, it's not like gold falling into your lap or whatever else. It can be a lot of times, for example, for a romantic partner, I've seen this happen so many times, it happened to me, where the person just presents themselves and they're exactly the match for what you want to see. So it is kind of falling into your lap, but then you have to engage. You have to actually engage with the process and take the action. So keep that in mind. When the opportunity presents itself, you have to take the opportunity. Now let's move on to the next part, which is going to be so crucial to also making this work effectively. Before we move on, I do want to mention that if you are interested in doing all this at a deeper level, being held accountable, doing it with high-level peers that are midwives to your dream, and essentially just having someone hold your hands so not only you get this right and start manifesting in massive ways, but also so you know how to do it basically forever, for the rest of your life. So you can repeat this process at a high level. Again, what we're going over in our coaching program, Max It, is some high-level stuff, and we've put in so much coaching and accountability and everything else that so long as you do the work and trust the process, you will get the results. And so what I'm gonna do is share a few of those results with you so you can see that this is actually happening. It's not just what I'm saying, and you can hear it from some of our clients firsthand.
Let me just say this shit's working, like, big time. I went from being on the back roads to the interstate. Everything's moving really, really fast. April was the most money I've ever made in my life. I made like $20,000 last month.
I mean, really I think it was like within 2 or 3 weeks of starting to work with Dave. I had the company I work for now, basically they were like, "Hey, we want to offer." I went on an interview. It was very good connection, very good positive vibes with the people. I liked the people, and they were like, "Hey, we want to offer you. This is when you can start." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, it was just like a good situation, and I've been doing very well there now. I just love my life, so it's been good.
But I sold 2 of my biggest deals ever during this course, 1.25 million, and I attracted them effortlessly.
Yeah, when something is exciting and you're just seeing results, things that you've been trying to accomplish for decades, and then all of a sudden, like, doors are just opening for you. It's just a whole different way of thinking now. It's amazing. Like, there's not enough time to like really document all the victories that I feel like are happening. And I feel like they're happening like in all aspects of my life, like in my family, in my professional life, my extended family, in my health, financially.
That there is a seamlessness and a holisticness in Maxit that is missing in other courses. Some courses, they don't hold accountability. Some courses teach you philosophy, but they don't teach you application. Other courses have no way for you to grow as a group and amplify the learning experience. Other courses don't create a level of accountability and responsibility and written documentation and create an infrastructure for you to actually do that, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel yourself, right? Those are things that are unique in the way Maxit has done that I have not seen in other courses. And I've gone through quite a few very famous courses, for lack of a better term.
So again, if you want to get some similar results and you want to finally not just have more information, but actually get transformation and have some real help and guidance along the way in doing that to actually get you there, you can check out more information to see if Maxit is a good fit for you through the first link down below. And if it is, fantastic. We will be happy to take you in if you're a good fit. And if not, no harm, no foul. So click the first link down below if you want to learn more. And hopefully I'll see you on the inside. So now we're going to go over a really crucial part, and I would say this is the part that trips most people up and causes them to fail to take quantum leaps. Because you have to understand, when you take a quantum leap, there has to be a storm or chaos that happens in your life. Now, why is that? Because what is a quantum leap? It's you going from, say, here to here. in kind of one leap and bound. Like you're really moving up in life. You're going up levels, which means that certain things that served you here are no longer going to serve you here and have to fall apart and essentially be removed. Now, a lot of people, not understanding how this process works, label this as chaos. They label it as a storm or negative things because maybe, for example, relationships are falling apart. Maybe their job is being removed. All of these things start to happen. But what's really going on, so long as you're doing the work and trusting the process, is the things that are no longer going to serve you at this new level are being removed because you can't take them with you, because they will not serve you at this new level, and new room needs to be created in order for you to be at this new place. For example, you'll hear ones where if you really take a step back, you're like, wait, how could that be the case? For example, someone who wants a much more improved job in a certain realm, but then they're almost losing their job and getting worried. And it's like, well, how are you going to have this job when you have this one? That space has to be removed. Or someone who's in a mediocre relationship, they know that, and they're like, I don't want to be this, I want this kind of person. And then this kind of person starts to present themselves, but their relationship is on the ropes and they get worried and they start getting scared and then go back to their comfort zone in the current mediocre relationship. But how are you supposed to attract that new one in or have that new one come in if that one is there, right? That has to be taken away. That has to be released. And so the inevitable thing that will happen, and it happens every single time, is that chaos or storm will come up in your life as you start to make quantum leaps. The goal with this is to recognize that it's not bad, it's actually a good thing, and to do what's called embracing the storm. The mistake that most people make is they get scared, they get fearful, and they go back to their comfort zone. And so they were moving here in the quantum leap. This is where they would have gone, but they came right back down to here. The storm goes away because now you're in your usual situation. You're back on this frequency and nothing needs to be removed. But now you're just in the same situation and nothing has changed. The growth didn't happen. The transformation didn't happen because instead of committing to being here and embracing the storm, meaning you would end up here and this would now be your life, you came back into the comfort zone of here. Understand, to take a quantum leap, it's going to be uncomfortable because certain things have to be removed. The old parts of yourself cannot come with you. Again, you don't get what you want. You get who and what you are. And so you need to become the person who is the equivalent to the things you're trying to bring in. And so life will start releasing and removing the things that will not support you in this new place. Now, there are some ways that you can handle this so it's not as bad. And we have something that are called storm breakers. They're kind of like mantras, also known as amalgams, that you can say when these things start coming up to remind yourself that, oh, wait a second, I'm not going to get hooked into this and see it as negative or whatever else. You can lessen the harshness of it by using certain phrases. So for example, the storm comes up, you can think of something like, I live in a friendly universe and everything is always unfolding in my favor. Now, that's one that I believe. If you can't believe them, you have to choose ones that you actually believe, and I'll put a list up of different ones you can choose or make your own. Something that's going to comfort you and get you unhooked from the storm. So let's say you got caught in the storm and you just want to, oh, okay, wait a second. This is a good thing. It'll be this or something better. Something positively amazing is unfolding for me right now. Right? So you're going to say these kinds of things and remember these kind of things in the moment, because when you do that, it is going to unhook you from the storm and help you remember that this chaos is a good thing. It's leading you to the next phase in your life. It is leading you to the quantum leap. When I took one of my first quantum leaps way back, and I was just going to leave where I had lived for most of my life, and I was just going to go halfway across the world to another country. Now, I did this because I was pulled to it. All the things, again, I started doing the focusing. I wasn't doing DCAs at that point, but I was kind of doing it unintentionally. I kept thinking about it. I kept putting my focus on it, and the opportunity to then do this presented itself. Well, there was certainly fear because I had to give up the comfortability of being where I was for a very long time. There were people there, were all these different things, but I took the leap anyway. And I will tell you, anytime I have taken a quantum leap, I have never regretted it. Because when you take a quantum leap, all of the ripples and other things it implies are massive. Because if I never took that quantum leap, I wouldn't be here speaking to you now. I wouldn't have my son who was just born 7 months ago. I wouldn't be with my current partner. All of these amazing things. I wouldn't have traveled to all these different places in the world, grown in the ways that I went. There's so much that comes out of a quantum leap because it's not just the things you're receiving, it's who you're becoming and how that is going to unfold as you keep moving forward. It's also going to make it a lot easier to make more quantum leaps in the future. So have these phrases on hand when you're doing this and there's some harshness. It will help you lower the importance or reduce the significance to stop pedestalizing this thing, to get grounded and be able to move forward through the storm regardless. And understand that once the storm subsides, which it will, when you stop fighting it and you stop trying to go back down or whatever else, you will then be in a whole new reality with a new level of coherence, and new things will start coming in. Opportunities will start presenting themselves. Once you've embraced the storm, the quantum leaps start taking place. Things from left field, seemingly out of nowhere, start to present themselves. Again, this is one of the main parts of being able to take quantum leaps, quantum manifestation, and transformation. It's something we help people hold their hands through in our program because of how crucial it is. Most people, when they go by themselves, they get scared and they go back down. They aren't reminded of these ideas. They don't have someone who can help them through it. It is so crucial you understand that this is going to happen. We're not going to sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, and exactly how you want it to go in your mind is how it is going to go. But then you would never be able to transform or evolve or get to that next place if you already knew how to do it, right? You have to co-create this and almost surrender to these higher processes that, again, are not trying to beat you up, that are actually just trying to elevate you and release the things that are holding you back. Again, if you make it through the storm, if you embrace it, you'll be at a whole new level of frequency that will bring in whole new results. And again, I've seen this work too many times to know it not be the case, not only in my own life, but with the clients. You know, the results you saw them getting. You know, some of them talking about how it was easy and effortless, because ultimately you'll get the guidance on what you need to do, then you embrace the storm, and these opportunities, I'm telling you, just start showing up seemingly out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere, but it seems out of nowhere because your mind can't comprehend it. The analytical mind can't find a linear way in which these things come in because it's non-linear. It is that quantum non-physical coming in to the physical. Now I want to cover again the time frame in which you can expect, as long as you're hitting the criteria, for these things to start coming in, because there is a term or an idea known as the quantum to Newtonian transition point, right? So this is basically the point in which you can expect quantum manifestation to take place. Now, quantum, again, we can just think of as the non-physical, you know, we can think of it as the energetic. Newtonian is the physical world, right? So Newtonian physics really dealing with the physical. So quantum to Newtonian transition point. When does it come from the quantum into the Newtonian? How long do you have to cultivate the quantum, like we mentioned and what we talked about, embrace the storm, whatever else it is, to then expect changes to start occurring in the Newtonian, which is the physical. So the quantum to Newtonian transition point actually states, and this is very important, 6 to 8 weeks of concentrated, keyword, or focused particle flow, just think of particle flow like energy, particle flow leads to dramatic changes in the physical world. Now notice I didn't say little changes, I didn't say itty bitty, you know, tiny, almost not noticeable changes. Dramatic changes. Again, a quantum leap. 6 to 8 weeks of concentrated particle flow will lead to quantum leaps, a quantum leap. A quantum leap is a big shift, a big change, a dramatic change. Now understand that we're talking about concentrated particle flow. That formula I gave you, what does that help you produce? Concentrated particle flow. If you're focused on your DCA, your objectives and everything else, you're taking action steps towards that and everything else, that practical element of it, then you have concentrated particle flow in a particular direction, a specific direction, like a laser beam moving in that direction. And if you do that, 6 to 8 weeks is basically the time frame for these leaps to take place. You embrace the storm and everything else, it takes place. Now, at first, you may not experience that in 6 to 8 weeks if you're not that good at it, but you will start noticing changes. And again, if you are good at it, and you really do this, you really focus, and you have all of your ducks in a row with this, you can also expect really good results in a shorter amount of time than 6 to 8 weeks. That's just when the dramatic quantum leaps start taking place. But it's not just nothing, 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 boom, right? There will be signals and signs and other little things that come in the meantime. It's like you're traveling down the path to the destination and you're kind of finding some gold and some amazing things along the way, and then you get to the destination where the massive result or the big dramatic change occurs. So keep in mind that you're about 6 to 8 weeks away of concentrated particle flow from huge shifts taking place, right? If you actually follow this process. And again, it takes some getting used to, and it takes, again, commitment. If you dip your toe in the water with this stuff, it's not concentrated particle flow. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't commit, it's not concentrated particle flow. If you're blaming and whining and complaining about things, not concentrated particle flow, at least not in the way you want it to go. Because also understand, concentrated particle flow doesn't just work in the positive. If you do it in the negative, you will have dramatic changes in the negative as well. It works both ways. It's actually why a lot of people are living kind of a quiet desperation type of life, or kind of miserable, because they've been using concentrated particle flow, quantum to Newtonian transition point, to create adverse effects, the effects they don't want in their life, right? But it really need not take so long when you truly apply these principles. Now, one thing that prevents people from being able to utilize concentrated particle flow effectively is they have a lot of blocks. You've probably heard of this before, energetic blocks, right? I call them energetic anchors that are like weighing you down from being able to get to the surface and the things that you want. And if you have those weighing you down, it becomes very difficult to have concentrated particle flow. And so what I'd have you do now, or next, is watch this video where I go over essentially how to release these energetic blocks and anchors. This will help you massively when it comes to quantum manifestation. When you release the blocks and the anchors, it allows you to have almost like a straight pathway towards your goals without walls or blocks or shrubbery or any impediments. So it's crucial that we release these energetic blocks.